I've been in this seat for. Used to it.
Hey, Jeff.
And this will be, this will be the first time that I actually go 5 years without being the president. You guys get more because of turnover. I always ended up back in the vice president role for 5 years. So I feel like I've been here forever because I really have. I've been here since I was done being president and I haven't.
He's here. I think we have one too many.
What?
I need some space.
Carolyn, are we ready? Carolyn, are we good? Hi, Jerry.
Hello.
So we're good?
As we're ever gonna be. Here.
Are you the toddler today?
I'm gonna try.
Okay.
We'll see what works.
You didn't have any pizza,
Okay.
nothing.
So be patient with Carolyn. She's trying to flip back and forth between us and that,
Passed out from hunger.
which is great.
It'll be okay.
All right. Call the regular monthly meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Park District of the City of Fargo to order. First item is the consent agenda. Is there anything to change on the agenda? Okay, first item is the consent agenda. Do I have any motion to approve the consent agenda?
A motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Dave, please poll the board.
Commissioner Griggs?
Aye.
Commissioner Deutsch?
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan? Commissioner Rosted?
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson?
Aye. Motion carries. Regular agenda, first item is recognition of the audience and public comments. Do we have anybody who would like to be heard or present or speak? Okay. I'm just going to read this statement just for as far as the public comments. At this time, board will hear comments from the public. We ask that each speaker is signed up to address the board, come up to the microphone. We'd ask them to refrain from using the forum. Other than these public comments, there won't be any interjection from the audience. If somebody does want to speak, they would need to be recognized by the Fargo Park Board President before coming to the microphone. At this time, we're going to go to the director's report.
Thank you, Madam President. And at this time, we will start down on the far end of the table with Kevin Bowe.
Thank you, Dave. Exciting news. Our events team, Stephanie and Tatiana, excuse me, were asked to speak at the North Dakota Tourism Conference will be held at the end of the month, April 26th. They'll be speaking on 701 Day, which is an event that started in 2019. So that event's going to be held at Broadway Square, obviously on July 1st from 5 to 7. They'll talk about their RDO will have a piece of equipment, agriculture equipment down there. There will be entertainment with Jessica Vines and the Gold Star Marching Band, Instagram photography opportunity, interactive art piece, and there will be free giveaways down at Broadway Square on July 1st. So that's exciting. Broadway Square was recently awarded the Pineapple Award from the CVB, their annual meeting and awards luncheon. That award is meant to for the organization that has contributed to most of the tourism, promotion, development, and hospitality. So that was a nice award that Anna and the team got down there. And then the last thing I got is Dave Clunt completed 4 lifeguard certifications. All those classes are filled. He has one coming up in May, and we'll add more as needed. He needs 30 guards right now just to fill his spots in the summer. So there is a big push on for hiring for staff on the pools. So
Just a point of information with that. So when those trainings or whatever, do we provide those trainings free of charge, or are they something that?
they're free for our staff, but we get community people that'll come from Lisbon or from Holly
Oh,
that
sure.
we do charge for those.
Okay.
But they do fill up. So he recruits staff out of that too. So that helps.
What is
Sure.
the charge?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
I can speak to it a little bit. So my son went through lifeguard certification and, there's written materials that cost money. So, they pay for their materials. Plus, I think we bring in someone from the Red Cross.
Red Cross, correct.
And so there's an expense to it and that's to cover the expenses more than really anything towards
Correct,
Fargo Parks taking in any income.
correct.
And obviously the benefit is then a lot of them can come work for us.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, the reason I asked about the cost is that one of the positions that's hard, the positions that are hard to fill are those. And especially to keep those people in those positions. So, to make it easier is all the better if there are ways to do that.
Yep, absolutely.
And one more item, Kevin. I was going to cover the update on the groundbreaking, but I believe Kevin has that from Stephanie. If you could just go ahead and cover that too, that'd be great.
So you bet. So on your calendars, May 5th at 4 o'clock, we'll have the groundbreaking event out at the new Fargo Sports Complex. The rain out date, backup date is May 12th for that. We will have an all-staff meeting out at that location at 11:30 that day to bring all the staff out there and kind of show them where everything is laid out.
Do we have an address?
I don't believe so.
Tyler's
Tyler?
working on it. I hope it's clever.
Can you share it with us, Pete?
But we did.
Well, Fargo Youth Baseballs is 1892 or something. And I just thought, wonder if that's connected to when
The
baseball
name-
started.
I believe the name of the street is Sports Way or something, Sports Drive.
Well, that's clever.
I like Park District Lane better.
Park District, Fargo Parks Lane.
I think we should change that. Oh,
Okay, in the interest of time, you can, got it?
If I can see it. 6100 38th Street South, Fargo, North Dakota, 58104.
6100?
6100.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Kevin, I'm assuming that the stakeholders will be there.
I'm not involved with those meetings, Dave. Do you? And
Yeah, we're gonna have all of our donors that are committed, and then we'll also have user groups and stakeholders along with other partners.
Okay.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. Carolyn?
Golf, an update there. The weather is not cooperating right now. And so, it's possible that we would have driving ranges open at the end of next week, but again, that all depends on how wet things get this week and how dry things are next week. And after that, then we will open the courses themselves. We're looking at, again, Osgood probably not opening until that week of the 21st because we've got covers to come off and again with the wet and cold conditions. So tune in more. We'll have a golf staff meeting next week. And again, if we have to push it off another week, we'll continue to keep you up to date. With that, our restaurants are expanding their hours as we get closer to opening up the different sites. So again, their Facebook posts have been showing more and more of their kitchen hours as well as their grills, but they are struggling like the rest of us with getting kitchen staff and wait staff. So I know that Legends is committed to having the grill open the most hours for our golfers, and then following up with the beverage cart to have that available as the next priority, and then however the restaurant hours fill in after that. And the same as what we're hearing from Edgewood Tavern. We also at Courts Plus this weekend have the Bunny Brunch. It's a brand new event. We're expecting 40 members to sign up there. We're about a little over halfway there right now. So there is still registration opportunities for members and non-members to take part in that coming up this weekend. The Island Park Master Plan just an update there. On your calendars should be the invite for the Community Advisory Committee meeting, which will be virtual, 9 a.m. on April 21st with our stakeholders. And then the community input meeting will be held at the Robert G. Johnson Rec Center, as it was for the first meeting on April 26th from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. With a presentation in the first half hour, and then opportunities again at different tables for folks to weigh in on the different amenities and their placement. And in addition to that, marketing is working on a survey that will hopefully engage additional folks who cannot be there in person to be able to give them an opportunity to weigh in on priorities for the different master planning items as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, Carolyn, will there be information at the Island Park meeting about the impact to the park on some of the placement of the pieces that are going back in, or? like-
Yeah, that's why we would be having a table that would say pool location A or B,
Yeah.
and these are the impacts. And based on what your knowledge is, what is your preference? Performance arts space, A and B, what is your preference based on the information we can present with at this time?
Okay.
Which
Thank
would
you.
include tree impacts and things of that nature. So
That is
people
our
would be
desire,
able to
yeah.
make their choice with all that information.
With is what we know right now.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm. And if they have additional questions, things that they want to know, obviously we'll take those if we can't answer them at the meeting and be able to get back to them.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Carolyn. Brian?
So not a lot to report today, but the Park District Foundation Board meets next Monday, as well as the task force that is looking at coming up with recommendations on changes to bylaws, finalizing a job description for the executive director, determining a process and for advertising and hiring executive director, and a memorandum of understanding between the park board or the Park District and the Park District Foundation. So that'll be the second meeting of that group. We're hoping to finalize our recommendations, I think at the latest by the June meeting, possibly by the May meeting. We'll see how things move along. So that's where we're at with that. On the VSS side, you all noticed that we have appointed a new nutrition manager, person that has worked for Valley Senior Services for 5 years. So are in the process of backfilling her position. She was a resource specialist. So filling that position and just continuing to try to keep up with demand for the meals program in particular. That's
We
me.
got milk.
We got milk, yeah. We're doing good in the milk department.
I'd like to ask, do you have predictions for incremental growth of the food program?
You know, that's a great question. There's a couple of kind of outlying issues that are going to have a big impact on that. When COVID started, we closed our meal sites and were able to do takeout meals. The state and federal government have allowed us to continue doing takeout meals. But when the stimulus dollars that were approved during COVID are spent out, there's talk of possibly discontinuing that. Right now, about a third of the meals we do at our meal sites are takeout. So that would have a significant impact on our meal count. We're working with the state on determining if there's any wiggle room around that. If they allow us to continue doing takeout meals with the growth in the senior population, I expect the numbers to continue to go up. You know, I don't know at what percentage, if that's 3% a year or something like that, but 3% of 300,000 meals, you know, turns into a big number. So.
Yeah, and we don't have any information about the seniors in the community. I suppose that baby boom generation is going to continue to provide us with seniors for quite a while.
Right. The baby boom generation is part of it. The other part, of course, is that people as they age are living longer, you know, and wanting to live in their homes or independently later in life. So all of that kind of focuses on an increase in demand for services. So we just have to be prepared, you know, from a resource and a service provision standpoint.
Great. So Brian, do we have an understanding of those takeout meals? Are they people who don't want to come inside and eat for whatever reason? Are they people who would rather pick up than have it delivered for some reason? Is there a different, obviously during COVID, we were doing takeout because we weren't open.
Right.
And some of them maybe just like going home, who knows? But how will that impact us if the takeout meals go away? Will there be people who no longer are served? And/or will there be more people than we can manage within our facilities?
Yeah, my sense is that probably a third of them will qualify for home delivered meals. If they're no longer getting takeout meals, we'll just screen them and they'll qualify as eligible for home delivered. Because of age, because of physical limitations. For some of them, a spouse is picking up a meal for him and his wife, or her and her husband.
Sure.
So they'll qualify for home delivered meals. Some of them are people that work and they come to the senior center. They don't have time to stop there and eat it. They have time to grab their meal, bring it back to where they work, and they work. And then some of them are people that prefer the convenience, of taking meals out. I mean, our goal is going to be to figure out a way within the existing regulations to qualify them.
Yeah.
And if we can do it, we'll do it. So hopefully, we'll be able to maneuver our way around the regulations in such a way that we can keep serving the people that need assistance.
Absolutely. Do you have a way to poll the people?
Pardon?
Do you have a way to find that out by polling them or asking them or?
Sure. It's just a
I mean, I'm
matter
not
of
saying you
having
have to do it, I'm
conversations
just-
with
Yeah.
150 people a day that are doing takeout meals.
No big deal then.
Right.
But it is curious that how will we make sure they get the meals they need if that's taken away?
Yeah, I have ideas. We'll see where it goes.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
They might be that they choose to come back if they knew that wasn't necessarily an option anymore. And a bad example, on Sunday, Jackson and I were getting back to town from his basketball tournament, and he said, can we stop at McDonald's before he went to his next practice? And I had him check to see if the lobby was open. We went in there, there was nobody in the lobby at all. The drive-through was 10 to 12 cars deep, and they've become so efficient during COVID of running people through the drive-through that people just have become accustomed to it. I don't think it's that they're opposed to going back into the restaurant. It's just, we changed the system and how it operated. And so hopefully, if for some reason they go back to saying, well, do you need to come in person, that there are people out there that are just like, oh, well, okay, and that's what I'm going to do. But
That's a small number. I mean, the people that I see that are doing takeout meals aren't people that I recognize from before. So it's a new population. And many of them look a little bit on the older side of the spectrum. And I don't know, my sense is they weren't comfortable coming into a meal site before the takeout meals became available. They're very comfortable doing that, but they're probably not gonna want to change.
Sure.
So we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Thank you.
Just one additional question. Are you still happy with Concordia supplying your meals?
Yeah, they're doing an outstanding job. As long as the price of chicken doesn't go up, we'll be okay.
Okay. Probably will.
Along with everything
now.
else.
You bring up a good point, Brian. How are the inflation and price increase at the grocery store affecting our business?
So we had a negotiated rate with them. The negotiation included a 2.5% inflator every year. So it's controlled by the contract unless they ask to renegotiate or to cancel. So right now, we're paying the rate that
Sure.
they bid, that we awarded a year ago, plus 2.5%.
So they're not having chicken is what we're saying.
No, chicken is a regular item on the menu and they have a really good way of making it, so people like it.
Good.
When is that contract coming up again?
November 1st is the annual recycle date.
You'll probably be anticipating more of an increase then because of inflation.
Like I said, it's part of the contract. The agreement is we pay the same amount plus 2.5%
Oh, you
every
mean
year.
that's a contract that goes over the
Right.
top. I
So
see.
the contract continues on unless one party or the other asks for it to be renegotiated
Mhm.
in a more formal way.
And
So
would
is-
you be surprised if they asked?
I would right now, because they haven't said anything about wanting to do that.
How many again?
Say it
I'm
again,
sorry.
Jerry.
How many year I can't remember.
Ongoing.
It's an annual contract that renews every year automatically unless one side or the other asks to cancel it.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Dave, next.
Good evening, Commissioners. Just a couple of quick updates from the Parks Department. The Brunsdale Pickleball Expansion Project is due to bid this Thursday. So if you remember, we brought that through our meeting cycle and had been granted permission to bid this project from the Commission. So on Thursday, we'll open those bids and see where that project comes in relation to budget. We'll be bringing that information back then in the April facilities meeting and then again in the May board meeting for you all to react to and see what direction we take with that. Another good update that I know we got out to you, but we're very happy about is the grant that was received through North Dakota Parks and Recreation. That was a facility renovation grant. The Park District was awarded just over $726,000. What that grant's going to be used for and what we were awarded the grant for was for the concrete projects that was on the consent agenda tonight. So we're very ecstatic about that. We, have great plans to do an awful lot of work this year. And so we're really, really happy that we were able to secure those funds through that grant. So that's what I've got for you tonight. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
What did you say was we got the funds through again?
It was through the North Dakota State Parks and Rec Associate or Department, and then through their facility renovation grant is what it was called.
Well, and it sounds like you guys gave a few shots at it to make sure you had the best opportunity to get some of the money that was available to us, which is really nice to see. So thank you to whoever put all that time in, because grant writing probably isn't simple.
No, it was a group effort for sure. And Tyler Kirshner's in the room here tonight. He had an awful lot to do with that. We did employ a strategy, not knowing where it was. The maximum the grant would allow was $1 million. And there were $3.5 million to spread over population centers with 15,000 and above across the state for park districts. So we approached it with, how do we do this best? And we approached it, in incremental areas that we hope to get something. And we didn't get the million, but $750,000 or just under that is something pretty important to us. So we're happy with that.
Very good. Thank you.
Weren't
Congratulations.
there, go ahead,
I
Jerry.
just said
I
congratulations.
Oh,
just said
good.
congratulations.
Yeah. So weren't there 3 grants that were awarded? I don't know whether they were all in your area, but I thought I glanced at that someplace.
I guess I'm not aware of that. I know this was.
Applied for 3.
Yes, and maybe that's what you're alluding to, Don, is we did put in for $1,750,000 and $500,000, trying to just kind of cover our bases, knowing that there were 7 or 8 park districts that we'd be in competition for these dollars. We tried to give, the grant review committee as much flexibility as we could think of in hoping to garner the maximum amount that we could.
Great.
And the State Parks and Recreation Department will put out that, press release of who all received grants. So
Wonderful.
thanks, Dave. Brock?
All right, thank you, Dave, and good evening, Commissioners. 2 quick things. We did announce to you, I think it was last week, that we're happy that we had made an offer and she had accepted that Stacy Kruger is our new Human Resources Manager. We also are very fortunate that we welcomed on Monday a new HR generalist, Ellie Gaither. She was with us previously and had moved on to a different opportunity and came back when this opportunity opened up. So we're very happy to be getting that department up and staffed and looking at what the next steps will be. We suspect we'll be advertising at least 1 more position in that department here soon, and they're putting that together as a team to determine what the best options are. So we're very excited about that. The other piece we'll walk through briefly with you this evening. I handed out a spreadsheet that has the Park District year-to-date budget to actual. Commissioner Ross, I apologize, I did not email this out tonight, but I did. This is the same information that we sent out, or that I sent out after the facilities meeting last month. And I just want to briefly talk about this is an opportunity for us to do a financial review. We have committed to, on a quarterly basis, providing a financial review to the commissioners at facilities, in which we'll look at a budget to actual, where we are year to date, and how things are progressing for us. I thought it was a great conversation at the facilities committee meeting. We got some input as to additional information that you may want to see, and we'll continue to tweak this as we prepare to do our next one after the second quarter. What you have in front of you tonight, and in order to get this kicked off in front of the 2021 audit session, we did it as of February, the end of February of 2022. And so it's just shy of the first quarter. And if you think about where that puts us in the course of a year, simply by mathematics, 2 months into the year, we'd be at about 16% of our revenue or expenditures. Unfortunately, not everything happens equally across each month. And so you see on the revenue side, we've taken in about 34% of our revenue. And the big driver for that is we've taken in 45% of our mill levy collections. And that is normal, because we typically will see collections come in January and February. Then there's the second big payment that comes in is typically in October, as people have those as months that they pay their taxes. And so very normal for us to see that we've had the revenues come in the way they have, and we feel very good about that. The one thing to think about is you look at, we also provided actuals in 19, 20, and 21, and those are year to date. So, or excuse me, those are year end. And so we will be in the future looking at each quarter and how we compare by quarter. But we'll talk more about this when we do our audited financials for 21. But the thing to keep in mind in the miscellaneous area, we know we had that big uptick in year ending 21, and that's because we had the sale of that Anderson property. As you recall, we did that early in last year, so that reflects as a large increase in miscellaneous revenues, which will not carry forward into future years. But as we look at revenues budgeted at just over 34 million, we've collected about 34% of that year to date, and no big surprises. Excuse me, there. On the expense side, the two areas that do track a little closer to a monthly, doing it evenly throughout the months, is our salary and benefits line. So some of these are closer to that 16%, and that's because of our regular full-time benefited staff. Of course, you'll see a traditional monthly expenditure coming in those areas, and our expenditures and our budget are broken down by service area. And you'll see that early in the year, until we really get rolling with a lot of our programs, we'll see those expenditures rise up. The most typical that we see is in the area of golf. You'll see what we have for expenditures budgeted there. And of course, golf isn't open, so we wouldn't see that happening yet. That's also true on the revenue side, by the way, with charges for services. Once we see memberships, et cetera, kick up at all of our courses, you'll see those charge for services rise up as well. The other things to point out really on the expense side is we make semi-annual payments on debt service. So there's a large debt service number there. You see that that's increased because we did issue the debt for the bond for our two major capital projects. We received those funds earlier this month, last week, as a matter of fact. We closed on that, and then we'll have a payment on that different this year than we've had in the past. So that's why you see an uptick in the payments on the debt service side. So we're at about 10% of our total budgeted expenditures year to date. And that's typical early in the year because we have a lot of expenditures that go into the kind of typical May through September or October months in this part of the country. So again, just want to make sure we're keeping you current on the status of what's happening with our budget. We're very comfortable with where we are year to date. There's no big surprises in there. We'll continue to have these as quarterly quarterly updates to facilities and then bring them to you as well. And as we send this material out to you, certainly feel free to reach out to me at any time if you have questions on specific things that are happening or what will be transpiring. And as you know, as we do every year, probably at the May meeting, we just finished it up our 2021 audit. Auditors left end of last week, and we'll be bringing that forward once they finish their review and get it prepared for us. They'll have a presentation at the budget committee, and then we'll have a presentation here at the board probably in May, June at the latest, as soon as they can get that ready. With that, I will answer any questions that you might have.
Just a comment. Thank you for shortening this. That was really nice.
I was gonna say, thank you for expanding, because we added a couple of actuals, because we had 2 odd years with COVID, and I appreciate the information, and I think on a quarterly basis, it's good for us to see where we are.
See, and
How
I'm
we
looking
compare.
forward for it being even bigger with the actual to match.
Big piece of paper, so. thank you.
Everybody wants something different. Anything, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, I just want to thank Brock, thank all the directors. And at this time, I would have gave you an update on our strategic plan, but since the 4 of you were here, you've got kind of an update of where we are right now. So with that, I'll end the director's report.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Next on the agenda, we have Growing Together Community Gardens presentation. Each month we have a user group or a partner of ours come, and this month we are welcoming Jack Wood to tell us about the community gardens.
So thank you very much. I definitely thank the parks for allowing us to garden. So we have a garden at Ronibus Park and McCormick Park, and then we're sponsoring the garden at the Island Park. So, and all 3 gardens are doing very good. So we started in 2006, so this will be our 16th year. We work with over 150 families in our 8 gardens. Here you can see the locations. So the World Garden, the one that says Community Homes, that's in the McCormick Park. And we haven't put the Island Park in there yet. So, yeah. So basically these are some of the garden groups that work with us. We do work with a lot of new Americans. Originally, we were working with a lot of Boonese families, and a lot of the Boonese families have moved away now. So, and we're thinking there will be an influx of some Afghans later on this year, and definitely probably Ukrainians. In the beginning, so all of the seeds were started in my basement. And as we grew, we plant probably over 12,000 plants. So now we basically have members that, so like Anita does all the eggplants, Kathy does all the brassicas, Lee does all of the eggplants, and I do all of the tomatoes. And then what we do is on May 1st, we basically have a get together with probably like 60 people to transplant them all into our 3 greenhouses. Planting in the garden, so we'll have 30 to 40 to even 60 people coming each week. We have a 5-week planting schedule, so it's definitely very chaotic, but we definitely keep it very organized. One of our successes, like with our rain right now, if you had a flat garden, it basically would be underwater. So what we have done is we have raised beds. So we have a 30-inch raised bed and a 30-inch path. And today we actually went out and planted potatoes in one of our gardens, and we were standing in the mud. But where the beds are, they were moist, but they were not soggy. Seed saving. Okay, so seeds are very, very expensive right now. If you buy like a pack of tomato seeds, your tomato seeds run between 25 cents and 35 cents a piece. And a lot of them, so if you plant 30 seeds, probably only 23 of them will come up. So what we have done is we now save the seeds for all of our tomato plants, and we will start saving seeds for our peppers and our eggplants. So basically, each garden works as a community. So the volunteer signs up for a specific garden, and they come to that garden every week. So like on Thursday nights, the Catalyst West meets from 5:30 to 7:30. The volunteers come there. We keep track of their hours. To be a full share member, you need to log 20 hours. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of work. So you basically start with the seeding, and then the weeds come, and then you're doing the weeding. Then you have to like prune the tomatoes, and then of course there's the harvesting part of it.
Can I ask you about the seeds?
Oh, can we wait till the question?
No
Because I have
problem.
10 minutes, so.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So children in the garden.
Jack, it's just a guideline.
You're okay, don't sweat it. Don't sweat it.
Don't give it in.
Relax.
I'm just wondering whether you use a certain type of seeds, whether they're organic seeds, if they're imported, if they're local. Do you have a preference, guidelines for the seeds you
We
use?
do have a couple different things on the seeds. One is we buy a lot of our seeds from Johnny's, which are organically grown. The other thing is a lot of the retailers in town do donate their seeds at the end of the year. What happens at the end of the year, we'll say bakers, they get a check for the seeds that they have left over, and they basically just throw them away. So instead of throwing them away, they donate them to us. So yes, and basically everything that we grow is, I mean, we grow everything organically. And I guess you don't know exactly if all the seeds are 100% organic. So.
Thank you.
Children in the garden, we have a separate family garden that we garden with the children and the parents. We also allow children to come to any of our gardens, so the parents can bring their children with them. And the children basically, like the attention span of a child is like 10 minutes. So basically they work in the garden, and then we have like leaders that will provide entertainment for them, and, you know, doing different activities. So harvesting, yeah, you can see like on the bottom, when we harvested our cucumbers, this is just out of one garden, 2,100 pounds. So like at the peak week. So we pick all of our tomatoes in like the flat boxes. When we first started, we give them the big box and they fill it completely full of tomatoes and it would squish down. So we basically have done that. During the harvest, okay, you can see on the right, basically, when we start the garden, we count how many volunteers are at the garden. And if there's like 23, we put 23 piles. And when they pick up their piles and say, if you don't like kohlrabi or beets, you can trade with someone else for tomatoes or whatever. And if there's anything left over, then we donate to the food shelves. 2 years ago, we donated over 8,000 pounds to like the emergency food pantry. So yeah, so basically 20 hours, and they can work in different locations. So right now we have a thing called the special ops. We're working in the garden to prepare them. And I just send out a note, and anybody that wants to come can log in hours for those 20 to accumulate those 20 hours. Farmers market, okay. So our volunteers pay nothing to garden with us. The only requirement is, is the volunteer hours. We need to pay for like liability insurance, board insurance, tools and different things like that. We do host a farmers market for like 8 weeks that we sell produce at. Connecting with the community. We work a lot with Concordia, the Helping Hands. They come out and work with us each year. Last year, one of the schools in West Fargo sent like 100 kids to help us. I don't know if it was helping, but it was a rainy day, sort of like today, and we sorted out all of our stakes. But but yeah, different groups come to help us at different times, which is really, really good. And we do some like, working with classes over at Concordia. What it means to the new Americans, and especially when the Bhutanese came in, and there was a lot of them. So there's probably over 200 that came into Fargo, and we probably gardened with over 100 of them, and they knew no English at all. But basically, as we worked with them and they went through their ELS classes and things like that and became, more familiar with the language. But we learned how to basically garden with people that didn't know the language at all, and just basically by using, hand gestures and things like that. The volunteers, and I think that both the residents that have been living in Fargo a long time and the new Americans, there's quite a bond that is made. Okay, so a couple different things. So one is we worked with farms. They had like a beginning farmers class, and they took a couple of our leaders, and those leaders are actually running their own enterprises right now. So it's definitely made a big difference in our community, especially the new American community. So any questions?
You got a lot going on.
I don't have any questions, but my wife and I volunteered with the community gardens. I think it's going to be our 7th year, and understates some of the things that he and the other leaders have done with this program. It's quite amazing to see people from various walks of life show up on their given date and time, and for 2 hours we just, there's friends that I've never met before that you look forward to see them in the garden. The one thing I will criticize Jack on is he makes us garden in the rain. So if it's raining, I'll still have to show up.
And we did garden today
program,
too. So
Jerry, where
this
were you
program
today?
It's a it's a nationally recognized. They've won many awards with this, and people from all over want to know how they've done it, how they've set it. Jack and his team won an award from Martin Luther King Day in 2015. Nola Storm, one of the other leaders and organizers of this, received another award. Last year they were featured. Jack was recognized with the Magic Hero Award. Community, and Jack's humble. He wants to serve other leaders in the organization that are doing this, but this is really a special thing that's going on in our community. I don't know how to grow stuff, and now I know how to prune a tomato and pick tomato or potato bugs off eggplant. Don't do any chemicals in the plant. It's really an outstanding program, and we've got more produce. I still have frozen tomatoes that we had to freeze last fall because we just couldn't eat them all. We brought home. It's a tremendous resource in our community.
thank you, Jerry. So I'll just one more thing. So basically in our gardens, we have the lead, and then we have like garden leaders, and the garden leaders lead the smaller groups of volunteers. So like at the Catalyst West, we have basically 2 leads, and we have 10 garden leaders that lead the small groups. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack.
Yep.
Didn't you get one of our grants too, right?
Like 3 years ago. So we got it's the BCS 853 with a tiller and a rotary plow. So prior to the BCS, basically all of our beds were raised by hand. And then the other thing that we purchased at that time was, it's called a flailer. And so basically I call it the annihilator. So at the end of the season, instead of taking all of the, we like to bury everything in the garden, to just build up our soil. This thing just mows through it. And, it's almost like a roadside mower. So, and thank you very much for that. So I know it was a close vote. So Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Nice job, Jack.
All right. Moving on. Agenda item number 4, board to discuss and consider approval of recommendation for independent commissioning for the Fargo Park Sports Complex. Dave Leaker and Tyler Kirschner presenting.
Thank you, Madam President. And as mentioned, Tyler is going to be our resident expert on this one right now. I'll just introduce the item. So in alignment with our procurement policy number 390, we put out bid requests for proposals for independent commissioning for the Fargo Park Sports Complex. And this is for commissioning all the HVAC, air conditioners, efficiencies of the system within the sports complex, all the mechanisms for lowering and raising nets. And we send this out to people that specialize in this project because we just wouldn't have the time to do it. So we did send out those requests for proposals and did receive 3 of those back. And with that introduction, I will turn it over to the expert, Tyler Kirschner.
Thank you and good evening. So as Dave mentioned, you know, this is a building commissioning project, and you know, it's pretty common for buildings of this size and buildings of this sophistication, excuse me, to have commissioning. You know, really what's the bread and butter of it is it's helping us break it in. And, you know, lots of facilities will go through the life of maybe the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on its complexities, to really break it in, find these efficiencies, and help locate problems. At the end of the day, we have about a 1-year warranty period. And so having these people on board helps us take advantage more of that warranty period. So something we found very valuable and our partners found very valuable as well. So we ended up choosing KFI. And tonight you'll see we have the three RFPs in your packet here. We also have the evaluation matrix that we put together. Couple of bullet points on why we chose KFI. Comparable buildings that they provided. They did NDSU Shack. They did the Health East Sports Center in Woodbury, Minnesota. And then they also did the Maslowski Community and Wellness and Research Center. These were 3 buildings that were very comparable to what we're doing and planning to do here in the next 2 years. So that was a big reason why we chose them. You know, one of the, they also had a really great effort on a facility manager and help training a facility manager. Not only as the building is done and then they start commissioning, it's really as we're constructing the facility. These guys are going to be out there, or these people are going to be out there in the field with us, and they're going to be bringing our facility manager, who's going to be charged with operating this facility, and really helping them gain an understanding of not only what's in the facility, but how to run it, how to optimize it, and really, you know, kind of gain the most bang for the buck, if that's how you want to term it. So another key point on this is they propose 6 staff for the project. I'm a big, some people go to the school of thought of sometimes smaller, tidier is a little bit more better. They proposed 6 people for this project, and I believe that with the 6 people, we get 6 different walks of life, 6 different expertise, and 6 different ideas that's going to help really enhance this kind of commissioning project. So let's see here. And then the last point that I'll make on here is the continued check-in. After the facility is open during that 1-year warranty, we're going to have bi-monthly meetings with the commissioning agent to make sure that everything is up and functioning, so that in that big 1-year warranty period, we can be working with our construction partners, i.e. McGough, to make sure that these items get addressed. So that in a nutshell is what I have for you tonight, and I would love to entertain any questions.
Excuse me, I have a question. So it sounds like this is you'd be hiring a contractor to provide these services.
Correct.
Now, is this an ongoing position, or is it a contract that goes for 1, or did you mention 2 years?
Yeah, it would be going through the life of the construction cycle. So theoretically, they would be coming on board. As soon as we sign the contract, they would be helping us review submittals. So they understand what the contractor is submitting. As we get into construction, they would be there boots on the ground testing, as these systems came online. And then it would be a year after into the warranty period. And even you could question longer if, there were, as warranty items, just needed to be finished. It could be so anywhere from now to maybe 3 years and a little plus. So
What happens after the 3 years?
after the 3 years, what they do is they tidy it up into nice little project manual, video tutorials, and they give us a plan of how to take care of our facility.
And then will you go to another contractor?
I don't believe so, no. This would end the commissioning.
So does that mean then that the park district will be taking over the responsibilities?
Yeah, this is just kind of the commissioning to get the building up and operating, and they'll help our staff on site to learn how to operate the systems and take control of those systems. So after the commissioning is done, it's a finite process, and our staff will take over the operation of the facility. And at times, I mean, you're going to have HVAC issues, boilers, chillers, and we'll call in our local experts that'll come in and service that equipment.
Sounds like a great plan.
I was impressed with the proposals from all of them. I thought it was a lot of well thought out ideas and plans on how they would help us to be successful and have a successful building. And I appreciate the time that obviously you spent to figure out which one really was going to serve us best. Thank you.
The only question I had is because of this particular project, but how do you determine the complexity or the cost to the commissioning agent? Is there some kind of threshold, or how do you arrive at that? I'm just curious.
Well, where we started within the budgeting process was we started with our partners, from the design side of things and from the construction side of things too, to identify what they've seen in the past, and what they have seen as value that we might hold on to as value, and they have a targeted budget, so to speak, right? They budgeted we budgeted $165,000 in our soft costs. And as you've seen, our proposal came in at $94,250 for this.
Yeah, and what I'm getting at is, if you were to build a, 4-wall ceiling building that didn't have, anything in it, it was a warehouse kind of building, you wouldn't buy a commissioning service because there's no complexity in the building, no matter how big it is or how much it costs. Or maybe there is a threshold, it's a dollar amount, or it's a threshold. That's what I was just kind of curious at, how you mark that and decide something is worthy of commissioning and another project isn't.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. With the complexities and the multiple systems that we have within the building, we also talked about, having this room right here getting into AV where they could come out, test out all the systems. We have really stressed, and I think I touched a little bit on this in facilities, is that the system and the building is made for quick turnarounds. And the reason we're able to leverage that is because of the building automation. Keeping key staff in key locations where you're not necessarily having to lower basketball standards, or goals, or things of that nature. If we can let it and make the building do that for us, where we can keep people kind of public facing, and to me that's where really the value came in as part of the independent commissioning. So
interesting, thank you. Technology.
Maybe should do some commissioning here.
I think he may have been,
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve and award the bid to KFI Engineers in the amount of $94,250 for independent commissioning for the Fargo Parks Sports
Second.
Complex.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Thank you, Tyler. Will, Dave, please pull the board.
Commissioner Griggs,
Aye.
Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler. Agenda item number 5, board to discuss and consider approval of priorities for next park master planning services. Carolyn Boutain presenting.
Commissioners, in your packet is a brief memo about the status of where we're at right now with the strategic plan that we're doing and the Island Park Master Plan, which again, in the director's report, we talked about how that current plan is going with the Island Park Master Plan, with the intent that that project will be finishing up June 14th, with the hopes that the board would adopt the results of that. The staff has then had discussions and wanted to know, because we have put in the budget to have additional master plans, what the board might be interested in studying next. And the 3 projects that were discussed at facilities were the Lindenwood Park Master Plan, the Yonker Farm Master Plan, and the Johnson Park Master Plan. And again, presented at that meeting were some of the pluses and minuses of either one or the other being the next plan. Again, to remind you, the Lindenwood Master Plan, we did some active work last year. It's a very active park as it is. And right now with the new road being completed, there's still a lot of interest by the public to know what the next phase will be. Yonker Farm right now is an open canvas. There is no one in the Children's Museum Yonker Farm building. We do have a relationship with Northern Plains Botanical Society, the Humane Society, the gardens that are there. A lot of those folks would like to have a direction so that they can, again, advance their vision and mission. And we can also work with the National Park Service to adopt whatever that next phase would be. The other is Johnson Park, which is the area south of NDSU, and that currently is an active space with soccer fields, playgrounds, small shelters, and warming house. And again, the neighborhood is interested in seeing where the plans might go for some development there. And again, we just wanted to open up the discussion here with the board members and get some direction. If it is something that you have a project that you would want us to work on, we would be asking you to entertain the opportunity to give that direction to staff so that we can start drafting those documents and getting ready for the bid process.
Well, we did talk about it at facilities, and each project is important. The one that really jumps out at me personally is Yonker Farm, the fact that we have an empty building sitting up there that could draw attention negatively, and the fact that we have many groups that are interested in Yonker Farm right now, actively interested, and then there's the national park covenants that fall into place. So it's kind of the most complicated one, and maybe the one that I kind of feel is most urgent. I think Lindenwood has been on the docket since I started 4 years ago, and so it feels like we should do that one right away, but it's functioning. I go there regularly and it's, you know, working well, so hate to put it aside, but for ranking purposes, I kind of think Yonker Farm has a little precedence over it. And Johnson Park is our blank canvas. That's kind of exciting to think about for future use too. So put a little more time into maybe thinking about that. But that's where I sit right now. I don't know about anybody else, but
I'd like to speak in favor.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jerry.
I was just gonna say, I agree with Stacy in that, you know, we got out in front of the master plan with Lindenwood Park with the road, because it would have been nice to have a master plan to put that road into, but nonetheless, we do have it updated, so it's got, you know, and we had to do something. The road down at the bottom was deteriorating, so we have made an investment there. Maybe it's time to let that kind of just simmer while we look at, it seems like there's more rust up at Yonker Farm that we need to file away and put on new paint. So I agree with what Stacy said.
I agree also with Stacy. I think that well, we all know that we've done interviews with those entities that would like to play a part. And they've been kind of left hanging for a while. And I think in terms of public interest, there's probably more interest in the Yunker farm, maybe because we've got the north side problem. With the north siders feeling that they're always put on back burner, and there's really a lot of interest in what's going to happen over there because it's their kind of their favored concept right now. But there are other throughout the city, there are so many people that are interested in that area. And the question that I get more than any other is, they're not going to tear the building down, are they? And I said, oh, no way. You know, it's not on the National Register. It's the oldest brick building farmhouse in North Dakota. And there's such great access there to whatever developments may happen. If you think about 19th Avenue and further north and the I-29 there, and it's just waiting to happen. And I think a lot of people have been waiting a long time. So I would vote in favor of that priority.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, Linwood Park, obviously hugely important community park, regional park for us, but it works and people can use it. We've opened the access for year round. It's going to continue to have improvements this season, but it works very well. Yunker Farm obviously has things we need to address. And rather than just keeping the Band-Aid on it or muddling through and putting people off, especially the users and groups that want to be part of it. I mean, we might not always have people who want to be part of something. So it makes a lot of sense. And Johnson Park, well, you don't want to leave a park in that neighborhood just sitting. It works. They can use it. And like Stacy said, it's a blank slated, someday it'll be really nice to be able to do something from scratch. But Yunker Farm kind of has that urgency. And I would like to hear what you guys think. I think we talked about this a little bit at facilities to see what your thoughts were on this too.
Yeah, I concur with what everybody else has said. My only concern is, and I've talked to our staff about it, but there's potential lighting issues at Johnson Park. And my fear is if we don't do something about that lighting and we decide to just do no lighting in the interim, that it's going to have an impact on soccer in the evenings and have an impact on NDSU's use. And so like the road, I think it would be nice if we could be open to the idea of still, dealing with portions of these things if they need to be done, in order to not completely derail the plan. But I definitely support the Yunker Farm situation and definitely look forward to ideas and what we can do with the space. So help me, do we own the building technically, or we do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it was ours on the land before the, okay. I didn't know that. I thought it
The
was.
Children's Museum did take the time to put it on the National Register as part of that board when it first was adopted into their use. But prior to it was part of what was owned on that property by the Park District.
Okay. Awesome.
Does a motion need to be made?
We would like to have a motion so that we could start soliciting the RFQs for the actual project. So that's what we're asking, much like we did in the consent agenda earlier, in allowing operations to go forward with that. Because otherwise we're kind of in limbo waiting to come back again to you.
Yes. Stacy, you have it
Carolyn,
in front of you. Would you like to make a motion?
Jerry,
Well,
did you have a
before-
comment?
Yes. So, and,
No.
entities that all have a stake in some ownership, how much more complex is this going to be to put a plan together? Because we've got stakeholders that we've got them, but it's going to add complexity to the whole process, I would guess.
It would be very similar to what we're doing right now. It's very complex what we're trying to do at Island Park and with the pool. And there's a lot of folks that have an interest in that as well. What at this point staff is proposing is that the 13 or 14 groups that are currently working on the interest with Island Park or with Yonker Farm would be part of that advisory committee as well. And so then maybe again, in addition to the neighborhoods, where with Island Park, we've adopted kind of the swimming community and the neighborhood associations. And so it changes, but the complexity is still there.
So if we choose one, which we're going to probably do today, is there something we can do that so that the other two are still, we can relay to the public that we're still, hey, we haven't just forgotten these. They're on, you know, we're going to keep continuing forward with some of the things that we're doing. You know, I'm sure like everything else, there's always projects everywhere. So it might be the lighting or the issue with Johnson, so that whoever those are their favorite parks, they know that we're not just pushing them aside, that we are continuing to look at things and keeping them up to date. And if there's suggestions people have, that we're taking those into consideration. Can we do something to kind of keep that dialogue going with, you know, each one of them says the neighborhood is interested, and everybody's got their piece. They want to know what's going on.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you make a good comment there that we're not saying, you know, we're just trying to figure out which one to do first, but I think they're all going to get done in a timely manner. I think if you look at the Island Park master plan, you know, we're in that 4 to 5 month process. So we'll get this one moving as we start to wrap up the next one. You know, we can start that RFQ process for that one. And then during this next budget cycle, depending on how much funds we have left after this one, we might have to budget more funds and then start that one. Could be over the winter time. So while we're picking a priority, which one to move forward, we're going to get them all done.
Sure. Sounds good.
Yeah, I think that's better than dragging it out too with, you know, just rumors from moving from here to there that they promised us this, they promised us that. If they can actually see even small incremental things happening, it'll be good for everyone.
Yeah, I think if we can get, you know, these plans done, I mean, who knows what funding partners we're going to have on whichever project we have. And while Johnson Park might be the third one we complete, there might be a funding partner that says, hey, I'm willing to partner with you, and we get that one completed first. So.
Or, right, like you could, like potentially NDSU could partner on the lighting at the site, then because they need it now.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, no different than Island Park. These aren't one-day plans. Here's our master plan, bing, done. I mean, you know, like Island Park, it's the course over decades to get to that final destination. And, you know, Yonker Farm definitely is going to be a long-term process as well to get to where our future visions. So, yeah, I think as long as the community recognizes that and knows and is informed that we are moving forward with all of them, that's what I'd like to make sure that they're comfortable knowing that it's coming.
Yeah, so on that front then, I'll make a motion that we solicit an RFQ for master plan for Yonker Farm and put Linden Johnson Park in the queue for the next master planning processes for parks in the Fargo Park District.
Second.
Did you get all that, Jeff? That was elaborated. Jerry was working 3 in 1 there. Yeah. All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have further discussion? All right, hearing none. Dave, please pull the board.
Commissioner Griggs,
Aye.
Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Rosted, Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank
Item
you.
number 6, board to consider for approval option to collaborate with Fargo Public Schools. I can't read that. Relating to North High Coliseum parking lot project. Dave Beats.
All right, good evening, commissioners. If you remember, this is an item that we brought you initially on March 8th. It was kind of sprung upon us then, and I don't mean any ill respect to our partners at the school district, but we got this kind of late in the game as to how, at least I would term how we like to get things. Anyway, we brought it to you as an idea on March 8th. At the March 8th meeting, if you remember, we talked about a lot of different things. And one of the most significant things that we took away is what would we do if we were going to design this instead of just kind of accepting what the initial design was originally from what the school district was planning. So right after that meeting, we got the most current set of plans. And then Tyler and I and many others went to work at a staff level and started to think about, okay, so how would we design this? What makes the most sense for the park district? Not only based on the availability of the size and area that we have to work with, but from a safety perspective and thinking about all the different amenities on the site and how do we want people to circulate on this site. So some of the things that were talked about at the facilities meeting that we've come up with the design is on the south end of the parking lot, we've added a landscape buffer. There was comments made by Commissioner Morgan that said, you know, as you're looking from the south into this site, it is just a continual area of concrete and kind of, you know, there's nothing there to really break that up. So we took that into consideration. We extended that landscape buffer that kind of mimics to the west side of the Coliseum and expanded that into the parking lot. So we felt that was a great addition. Another thing we looked at is, you know, this is an area that serves a lot of people. When we have events at the Coliseum or baseball games or the tennis courts or now this new track addition and turf facility that the school district's going to, we started to really think about safety and how do we move people about this area safely. So another thing we added was a series of speed tables to slow traffic down. And those speed tables also double as pedestrian walkways or crosswalks, for lack of a better descriptor, into the different amenities. So as you can see on the exhibit there, we've added those speed tables not only to get into our entrance at the Coliseum, but also that would connect the baseball field and the track facility on the east side. Another thing we looked at was pedestrian corridors. So the thing that we can point to that maybe you've been to Costco or the Vets Arena in West Fargo, they have a painted on the actual concrete or asphalt surface, a pedestrian corridor where cars are not, and we can move people safely through that parking lot. Another option we explored that was brought up from the commission was a drop-off area in front of the Coliseum. We put a lot of time into that thinking, you know, how do we get that to really function well? And every exercise we did there, it came up that we could do it, but we were creating additional safety hazards that we weren't comfortable with. And so what we did is we expanded that speed table a little bit to allow for an area that we know people are going to slow down. We know people are going to still stop there, but it's not an actual designated loop where we're going to pull people off and create a safety issue just because we can't guarantee that the traffic in front of the Coliseum is one way only. So those are the things we looked at. We also looked at expanding an area just to the south of the baseball field and in the northeast corner of the Coliseum, because we know that there's kids that like to play there. Their siblings might be playing on the actual baseball field to the north. We went away from that idea too, just from another safety standpoint. Although we know kids are playing there, we didn't want to invite that play and have an expanded area there. Another thing we addressed was the ADA issue. So we've added the appropriate amount of ADA stalls that are in front of the Coliseum there that you can see. So in a nutshell, that's kind of all of the things that we looked at from a design perspective and tried to incorporate into this. So that was reviewed at facilities. It was recommended that we bring it to the full board for more discussion and potential approval. The other side of this, outside of the design, is our partnership with the school district. What the school district has offered to do for us is they would bond for this project and essentially call it their project, and we would just be a partner in that and agree through a joint powers agreement to do a repayment over a 20-year period. In your packet is a draft of a joint powers agreement along with a amortization schedule, easy for me to say, that shows what the payments would be over a 20-year span. The estimated payment right now with interest rates the way they are is anywhere from $103,000 to $107,000 a year. Since this wasn't on our docket to do this quickly, we talked about it from a staff level and thought, you know, this is a good opportunity for the taxpayer. We've now had our swing at a better design, we feel. We would just incorporate this into our operating costs every year through our regular concrete and asphalt budget. So we wouldn't be coming to say, now we want additional dollars from the commission to allocate towards this. We would account through this through our normal operating budget. So that's kind of the explanation of how we got here. What we're looking for tonight is either more discussion and send us back to the drawing board. Time is a little bit of the essence. The school district would like to sell their bonds on the 24th of May. So they're really looking for us for a commitment, whether we're in or not, first and foremost. And so just all of those considerations, we feel we've vetted this from a staff perspective and feel confident in the design. We feel confident in the way that this is going to be financed and paid for. And, you know, we look at it from a disruption of service too, to the end user, regardless of what amenity they're going to there. We can do this whole entire thing in one fell swoop and disturb this area just once. So that's kind of the information I have to present. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions.
And just clarificate, this is a concrete lot, right?
This is a concrete lot. Yep.
I
I
can't
have
tell
a
you how
few
much better I
questions.
feel about this than I did a month ago. The fact that you guys have really put in the time to figure out what do we really want there and what should be there versus, okay, we don't have any time and the school wants to get this done. So I appreciate, and the thoughtfulness, even some of the suggestions I made that you said, and came up with a way, how can we meet the needs and fit what we need? And the fact that ours doesn't have to match theirs, that we have different things that we feel are important for the area we're in. I love the little jut out by the ball diamond. I mean, some of the just very subtle, but hugely impactful things that you've done to make that space better, and utilizing that. I just so appreciate that we're going to do it right. So thank you guys.
Welcome.
I wanted to ask whether we want to put a motion forward to improve, to collaborate with the public schools, or if we're approving the design, or both.
The recommendation from staff would be to do both. And the design is more on our side, that the commission is comfortable with what we've come up with and presented. The other part of it is just to allow the school district knowledge that we are saying from a commissioner standpoint that we are behind this from a financing standpoint. We are committed to do this project.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a few questions, Dave. First of all, was like the speed tables, the pedestrian walkways, the greenery, none of those were in the plan that you were looking at.
Correct. That's absolutely right. Those were not included. We did collaborate back with the school district and asked if they wanted to carry those same design features through their areas. Their desire is not necessarily entirely different than ours, but it is a little bit different. They're trying to maximize as many parking spaces as they can. So they didn't see the same value in the way that we did, and they're looking at it from another perspective. So you're absolutely right. Some of those features were not in there. Those were things that we put in there based off of what we heard the commissioners say.
So from a cost perspective, is there, how do we compare this design to the previous one? Are we about the same price, or?
It is very similar to the same price. The one option that we have chosen to do that will escalate it, if at all, is the colored concrete instead of painting the pedestrian walkways. We're going to do those in colored concrete so we don't have the ongoing maintenance of having to go in and restripe those areas. So we're told right now by our architect and engineer, actually it's the school district's architect and engineer, that it's almost cost neutral, but if anything, that colored concrete might escalate the price just a little bit, but it's a negligible increase.
So then the last question I have, does this feel this design compared to where we were a month ago, or where are you at, or parking lot?
I'm not sure I heard the whole question, Jerry. Could you repeat that?
Well, it's kind of a loaded question. I guess, are you comfortable, or do you feel like this was well worth the time, extra effort in to come up with that's a little more parkish than just a concrete slab.
Yes, absolutely. I think the time that we put into this, and I can look back at Tyler because he'd pour his heart and soul into this, so to speak, and he'd bring it over and we'd discuss it. And I'd be like, well, what about this? Or, then we'd bring Dave into the conversation and say, Dave, here's where we're at. And Dave would say, well, what about this? And so, we went back and forth a lot, and I do think the time was worth it. And I think we're definitely happy with the design that we've produced here.
And I'll just conclude with a comment. This is the way, and Director, we were a little bit gun shy last month, and what some of the other comments were, this is a much better, way better design. I'm glad we took the extra money. It looks a lot better, and the price is going to be the same. So at the end of the day, it's a huge win-win.
Agreed, and it was moving faster than what we like to do projects as well, and you realize that from us about, we have a methodical way of doing this, and I'm not trying to
That's where we
downplay
could be the bad guy and provide top cover.
I'm sure the school district did the same thing, and then just, we didn't get that information as quickly, certainly as I would have desired to have it.
No, I think this would
Thank
be
you, Dave.
great. A good project that, well, you hate to just have to spend a lot of money on a parking lot. It's doing it right, doing it concrete, making it fit with what we need from so many different aspects is going to prove to be useful to us for decades to come, which is nice.
Yeah, and an improvement for the community too, to the south.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. Thanks for doing the work.
Thank you.
So I'll move that we accept the proposal with the collaboration with Fargo School District taking the lead on the financing, as well as the plan as laid out in front of us in terms of dealing with the Coliseum parking lot.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, Dave, please pull the board.
Commissioner Griggs,
Aye.
Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosted, Commissioner Rosted,
Hello? Oh, there we go. I didn't know if there was a gap. Yes.
Commissioner Dawson.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, and thank you for adding trees. It's very nice.
Do we have
You won't get
anything?
credit.
Do we have anything else? Anybody have anything else to add?
I'll move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, so moved. Meeting adjourned. Family research.
Just talk to you.
Doing something with Frank.
So